Hey everyone, sorry for the delay here. As a former boss of mine used to say, technology will fuck you. So just putting that out here in case we don't make it all the way through without any glitches. Thanks for having me. I am, as I was introduced, the Director of Community Organizing at Code for America. But before I worked at Code for America, I worked on President Obama's re-election campaign. And what? Oh, thank you. I guess you can do that in Canada. But to be clear, Code for America is a nonpartisan organization. But when I was working on the Obama campaign, we spent a lot of time talking about the Affordable Care Act, which will go down in history as the president's signature achievement. It's something that presidents for the past 75 years have been trying to get done and have failed, and he got it done, and we were very proud of that. But you guys are so active. This is great. Yeah, but it almost fell apart. And not because of obstructionism in Congress. It almost fell apart because of a broken website. Now think about that. The most significant legislation in modern American history almost failed because a website didn't work. Now, it was high enough profile that the president was able to bring together some of the most talented technologists in the country who worked literally around the clock for months to get it back up and running. And it works now, thankfully, but this is not an anomaly. This is really, healthcare.gov is really just the tip of the iceberg. So in the US, 94% of government IT projects, 94% of them that cost more than $10 million are either delivered late, are delivered over budget, or flat out don't work. And most of them affect people who have a lot more urgent needs and a lot less of a voice than those of us in this room do. As Ezra Klein from the Washington Post said at the time, one privilege the insured and well-off have is to excuse the terrible quality of services the government routinely delivers to the poor. Too often, the press ignores the pain and trouble of interfacing with government bureaucracies that the poor struggle with daily. So if you think about some of the ways that you might interact with government on a daily basis, you know, for me, it's besides the obvious stuff like walking on sidewalks and that sort of thing. I mean, I take public transportation. That's about it. I don't have kids in public school. I'm not on social service benefits. I've never had to sign up for government health insurance. But for people who are poor, who maybe have been in and out of the criminal justice system, are trying to apply for food stamps, whose kids go to public school, who have to ride 4 buses one way to get to work, government doesn't work for those people, even more than we think it doesn't work for us. I want to give you a few examples of some less high-profile examples of how this plays out. This is a story from Florida. Who's from Florida in the room? Great, so you're gonna like hearing about this. I don't know if you already know this story, but at the end of 2013, the state of Florida rolled out a new unemployment website. So now all Floridians who want to sign up for unemployment benefits had to go to this website. They could no longer call or go to an office. They had to go through the website. So it rolled out, and a couple of months later, the state of Florida was extremely excited to see that the unemployment rate was falling precipitously. And they were trying to figure out why, and they finally realized that it was because the website that people were forced to use to sign up wasn't working. These were thousands of Floridians who depend on that few $100s a week to feed their kids, and there was no one they could pick up the phone and call and tell that they weren't getting their benefits. This cost the state of Florida $63 million. This is one of my favorites. I don't know if favorite is really the right word, but this past fall, the Los Angeles Unified School District rolled out a data integration system that was meant to make a comprehensive record of every student's educational history in the public school from kindergarten through 12th grade. So grades, class schedules, attendance records, everything. This tool was supposed to roll out in 2007. It rolled out, if you're doing the math, 7 years late, and of course over budget. At the time it rolled out, they were working with a second contractor, and they were in litigation with the first contractor. And as you can imagine, very soon after it rolled out, it crashed. And what this meant for students was that they couldn't get class schedules. So in this case, in Jefferson High School, students spent the first 2 weeks of classes sitting in the auditorium. Seniors who were applying to college couldn't get college or high school transcripts in order to fill out their applications. This cost the Los Angeles Unified School District $130 million, and that's as of a couple of months ago. They're still trying to fix the problem. And this is a great example. This is from Arizona, but this is true of just about every state's social service benefits website, so where you go to sign up for food stamps. You can't really see it here, but this blurb down at the bottom says that the web page is unavailable because the federal data sources are not available during the following times: Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. Arizona time. Saturday and Sunday, 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. Arizona time. Because no one who's trying to sign up for food stamps would ever, of course, want to use the sign-up form during those times. And I'm not a technologist, I don't really know anything about database administration, but I'm not really sure why a database would be closed at regular periods. So I feel like it actually would be cheaper to just keep it on all the time. But again, I don't work with these things. To keep them cool, is that what happens? I mean, it is Arizona after all. The state of Louisiana, actually, their benefits sign-up form was down for an entire month earlier this year. So a lot has been said about these statistics in the US. We have the lowest trust in government pretty much since the Civil War, since these statistics have been kept. The lowest voter turnout since World War II. And I think you can draw a direct line between these numbers and the stories I just told you. It's at least as much about this sense of incompetence as it is about politics or ideology. Government, we just have the sense that government doesn't work. And especially in a time when we're able and accustomed to being able to get the store of the world's knowledge in the palm of our hands. Our expectations for how government work and government's capacity to meet those expectations are growing increasingly wide. And that's not just a bad thing for people who can't sign up for benefits from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. Monday through Friday. It's really dangerous for democracy. It breeds cynicism. We need government to work, and not just politics, but the bureaucracy of government. And in the 21st century, that means that government has to be able to do digital implementation well. So as our friend Tom Steinberg, who is the founder of a civic tech company in the UK called My Society, has said, good governance and good policy are now inextricably linked to the digital. You cannot craft policy, you cannot think about governing without incorporating digital from the start. So those are the questions that we ask ourselves at Code for America. How do you bridge this gap between our expectations as citizens of how services should be delivered and government's ability to deliver on those expectations? And how do we help government make use of this new revolutionary tool set that we know has changed every industry in our lives, mostly for the better? It's certainly empowered citizens. That kind of change makes sense for government. It makes sense for democracy. So this is obviously a really big problem, but we're really hopeful at Code for America, and we believe that this is true. We believe government can work. We've seen it work. But it's going to take all of us bringing all of our skills to the table in order to make it work. There is no Code Red ninja squad coming to save us every time a government website breaks. This is Lauren. If you haven't read it, you should Google this, Stop Waiting for Permission on Medium. Lauren wrote a blog post about her experience. She is a graphic designer by training who lives in Philadelphia. And a few years ago, she showed up at a hackathon in Philadelphia around education. It was hosted by the Code for America Brigade chapter in Philadelphia. And I'll talk a little bit more about what the Code for America Brigade is. It's our citizen volunteer program. She showed up not because she had any coding skills or wanted to brush them up, but because she cared about the state of the city's failing public schools, and she wanted to know if there's anything she could do about it. So she got there and she was encouraged to brush up on her really rusty HTML and CSS skills, and she ended up building a visualization of the school district's budget that weekend, and she was just hooked. She felt empowered to do more. And so she kept coming to the Code for Philly's weekly meetings, and eventually she decided she wanted to fix a problem or address a problem that she and many of her friends experienced when they moved to new neighborhoods in Philadelphia, which is that it's really hard to figure out what the parking rules are of different neighborhoods. And it's really, that data that the city has is really hard to extract from its website. So Lauren basically, in the course of a week, taught herself JavaScript and GIS, and she decided to just throw together this little map that she thought just she and her friends would use. And she tweeted it out on a Friday. On Monday afternoon, she was on the phone with the parking office of the city of Philadelphia, talking about more ways that they could make their data more accessible to citizens. And now, several months later, Lauren is a data scientist working for the city of Philadelphia. We are very proud of her. This is Tiffany. Tiffany was a fellow at Code for America last year, and our fellowship program is a year of public service, full-time public service, where technologists take a year off from their jobs in the private sector to come work with city governments in teams of 3 to address a certain problem or issue. And Tiffany was assigned to work with the city of Atlanta to streamline their court system. But in the middle of her fellowship here last summer, a story crossed her Twitter feed. And many of you may have heard of this as well. There were many Detroiters whose water were getting shut off because they couldn't afford to pay their water bill. And so Tiffany did what many of us do. She was following this story on Twitter, and she started having conversations about it, what could be done. Her friend Christy said, you know, I would really like to help out, but I want to know that my money is going actually to help people pay their water bills, and I don't know how to trust the veracity of people who are saying that, you know, if I give to this charity, it will end up in the hands of people who need it. And after a little while, they decided, you know what, instead of just talking about this on Twitter, let's go actually do something about it. So Tiffany and Christy, Tiffany took her experience that she had working inside government, understanding the back end of government systems, to build a Detroit Water Project. Has anyone heard of Detroit Water Project? Great. So Detroit Water Project has helped over 900 families in Detroit to pay over $170,000 worth of water bills. And it just graduated as one of the first nonprofits and the very first civic tech company to graduate from Y Combinator, and is now expanding to Baltimore. We're very happy for Tiffany. And what you see in both Lauren's story and in Tiffany's story is this sense that we don't just have to complain about what we feel is broken in our communities. We can use our skills to help fix it. And that's the spirit that animates the Code for America Brigade program. And as I said, it's our citizen volunteer program. We're in over 100 chapters around the world. We have international partners that work with us through our international program, Code for All. And the brigades, what they do is they meet weekly, so it's not just a set of hackathons. And they partner with government, so they can understand both the problem set and the systems, what's possible, what's realistic, and really develop a relationship between citizens who care about fixing problems and government who really want to take advantage of the capacity of the community. So here are a few examples of the kinds of projects that brigades build. This is called Local Free Web out of San Francisco. It's a way for San Franciscans to find free internet-enabled public access computers by texting their bus stop ID to a number, which will return the closest free internet-enabled computer. This is one of my favorites. This is from Oakland, where I live. It's called Adopt a Drain, and Adopt a Drain was actually forked from another project that was built in Boston in 2011 called Adopt a Hydrant. When our fellows showed up in Boston in February of 2011, I guess like every February it feels, there was a massive snowstorm. And the city was closed on their first day. And so they had nothing to do they realized when the plows came through their neighborhood, they buried the fire hydrants. And they thought, well, if there were a fire on our block, then the firefighters would have to dig out the fire hydrant before they put out the fire. And that's silly. Like, I'm right here, and I have nothing to do today. I could just dig out that fire hydrant myself. So why don't we allow citizens a way to adopt fire hydrants and be responsible for digging them out when it snows? And so they did, and it was really popular. It's not like a big deal, but it also was redeployed in dozens of cities, and it was redeployed in Hawaii to adopt tsunami sirens, here in Oakland, where I live, to adopt storm drains. As we know, it doesn't rain that much in the Bay Area right now, which means that storm drains get clogged with trash, and when it does rain, the streets flood. And so instead of sending public works employees around to all the storm drains to clean them out, they allowed the city or citizens to dig out storm drains. And so now, when it rains, I get an email from the city, from the Public Works Department, that says, it's about to rain, you should go check your storm drain. And so I walk around the corner, and I check my storm drain. If there's trash in there, I pull the trash out. They'll give you like a little orange vest that you can wear and like a trash picker. And there's usually no trash in my storm drain, so I just go back home. And it's not, I mean, it takes maybe 5 minutes to do. It doesn't rain that often, but it's the sense of connection and responsibility I feel for my city. I told you this was going to happen. I warned you. It's that sense of connection and responsibility I feel for my city. It's not just government's job to do this work. It's all of our jobs. This is one of my favorite projects. This is a project called Balance. We worked with the Human Services Agency in San Francisco to pilot this and are now trying to roll it out throughout the state of California. If you're on food stamps, it's not easy to check your balance on you get a little, what they call an EBT card. It's like an ATM card. You use it to swipe at the grocery store. But there's no like online banking. There's no Mint for EBT. And the easiest way really to check your balance is to go to, other than going to the grocery store and crossing your fingers and hoping you have enough money in your account, is to go to an ATM. In some, like the state has a contract with a certain number of banks. You go to the ATM, you put your card in, and it will tell you your balance back. You're not withdrawing money, you're just checking your balance. Every time an EBT client does that, the bank charges them 75 cents. And in California last year, in 2014, banks made $20 million, 75 cents at a time. So I knew that would get a reaction. So of course this is ridiculous. And so our health team, actually this was not a Brigade project, it was built by our health lab at Code for America. It's actually been deployed in 3 other states by our brigades. But you just text your account number, you sign up, you text in your account number, it returns your balance, and it's free. It's also almost free for us. I mean, this doesn't cost a lot of money. So that's an example of a project. Actually, all of these are examples of projects where the code has been built in one place and then easily redeployed somewhere else. But it's not just the code that is spreading, it's this sensibility that government can work and that there's something that productive that citizens can do to help make it work. And none of these projects on their own are really going to revolutionize the bureaucracy the way we need it to be revolutionized. And Balance is not going to solve hunger or get people off of food stamps. But all of these projects knit together and over time represent not just the capacity to fix what's broken with government, it represents what the practice of democracy looks like in the 21st century. It's citizens who can use their hands and not just their voices to fix what's broken about government in collaboration with government to make communities healthier, to make governments more responsive, and to make democracy stronger. So hopefully by now you also agree with us that this statement is true. Government can work, but that it's going to take all of us lending our skills, whether we can code or not. Whether you have 2 hours on a Wednesday night or 2 years, it's on us to fix what is broken about democracy. So I'm hopeful that you will come join us. I would not be a good community organizer if I didn't have a really hard ask for you guys. My marketing team was trying to get me to cut this down to 3 things, and I said no. But we made it as easy as possible for you to sign up. So if you go to this short code, this bit.ly link right now, you can do all of these things. You can join a brigade in your city. There's probably one where you live, but if not, you can start one. You can apply for the fellowship for 2016. It starts in January. You can learn about how to apply for a tech job in government. You can become like Lauren. Or if you're not from the US, you can launch a Code for project in your country through our international partnership program, Code for All. And we also have what we call the Civic Tech Issue Finder. If you scroll down on that page, you will see that we have surfaced all of the issues from civic tech projects across our network that are looking for help, and you can Code for America right now. So I hope that you'll join us, and I hope that you see this is really important work, but also really fun and really rewarding. So thank you. I believe we're doing questions. Is that right? So if anyone has questions, I'm here until they tell me I have to get off the stage. Do you like our new flag GIF?
Ready to go?
Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
Great talk.
Thank you.
You didn't mention the click a neighborhood thing. That's one of the cool
click
things.
That hood.
That's one of my favorite.
Click that hood is really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people get really worked up about where the neighborhood boundaries are drawn. So. So we've had some real excitement around this little game that lets you define the boundaries of neighborhoods, and people get, if you think comment sections on Reddit are bad, you should see the comment sections on Click That Hood.
Yeah, the Click a Hood thing seems kind of like an example of a way that an app can do a thing sort of instead of government. I think, we have diversity of opinions about where government will be, say, in 100 years. I think some of us hope that it sort of retreats and that we have voluntary internet solutions instead. Obviously, there's not consensus on that issue, but it seems like there is consensus on wanting government to desist in particular things. So I'm wondering, how can we get the government to stop dropping bombs on brown people on the other side of the world and stop imprisoning millions of Americans? Like, are there things that we can do, whether through Code of America or otherwise, to get the government to stop doing things we want it not to do?
So, I mean, this might be a roundabout answer. We don't work with the federal government for many reasons, but mostly because for us, we think that it's important to rebuild the relationship between citizens and government at the place where citizens actually interact with government. And that if we can restore trust on those day-to-day interactions, we think that levels up to deeper political and civic engagement. And so my role as director of community organizing is to think about the ways that we engage citizens through the process of building technology. I promise you, if you do this stuff, you end up feeling really empowered, and you're going to get more involved in local issues than you would otherwise, and that ladders up to more civic and political engagement. And so when citizens don't feel disengaged, when they don't feel like there's nothing they can do that's actually going to change anything, then government makes decisions without needing to worry about what citizens think. When citizens feel empowered, then they're going to get involved in all sorts of ways. And we think that the best way to show them that their voice matters, that what they can do is going to work, whether they want to, whatever their political issue is or political point of view, that's showing them that the direct result of their investment of time in civics is really important. I mean, it's a rational decision at this point not to vote. So if we can change that calculus, then I think we will change, we'll see outcomes that are at least more democratic, if not going to make everyone happy.
Thank you very much for your talk. The problem is not the database uptime, right? We can solve things with technology. Everybody in this room can solve really hard problems with technology. but it's solving the bureaucratic problem, which is perhaps a fundamentally human problem. It's not a technological problem. So what are some of your thoughts on how to get around bureaucracy, how to solve it, how to break it down?
Yeah, and I'll say that's what we do. I mean, the goal, Code for America's theory of change is that by building a piece of technology like balance, which is super easy and simple to build, crystallizes the problem for decision makers. And we've seen it happen time and again, that once you start having a conversation about how broken that part of the system is, those changes can flow upstream. So in San Francisco, where we worked with the HSA on the project that preceded Promptly, through that project, they realized that all of their citizen interactions were really poor. They had people coming into the HSA office having to talk to social workers or caseworkers behind 3 inches of bulletproof glass through these really crappy microphones. There's a story of one guy who came in and he couldn't be heard through the microphone, so he had to physically get down on his knees in order to be heard, and it's just a perfect metaphor for how we treat people. And doing, people who work in government are great people and they're champions and they got into this work because they want to help people. But the incentive structure is set up for them to please, to serve, to think of their user as the other departments in government and not the citizen. And through building these tools, we can actually change that perspective. And it ladders up to a lot greater change. If we're not choosing projects that we think can push change upstream to policymakers, then we're not working on the right projects.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi there, great talk, thank you. So I recognize that the name is Code for America, but I'd be curious for you to talk about how the world of software engineering as a whole, which includes testing, system administration, design, technical writing, internationalization or localization, for multiple languages, all those things actually end up getting involved. I'm especially interested in how design and user experience that is maybe completely divorced from code and stuff like wireframes ends up in the Code for America process.
Yeah, so again, and it's sort of a cheeky name. We were kind of pulling this play on Teach for America. And we realize now that the Code for is a little bit misleading and can be alienating to a lot of the people that we need to come work with us. But we're kind of stuck with it now. So we also have a lot of people who think that we teach kids how to code, which is unfortunate as well, because we don't, although that's a really great thing to do. But design and UX are essential. They're as essential as writing code. I don't code. I direct our communities team. That's also a really important part of what we do. So if we didn't have a community organizing function, none of this work would really matter. We'd build a bunch of tools that stayed in the room. So how do we actually build communities that are inclusive? We can't build civic technology if we're not including everyone in the process. It doesn't work. It's sort of the definition of civic technology. So how do we get populations to the table who are going to be using these tools, who are most affected by these tools? How do we get subject matter experts at the table? UX and design is central. We have a whole UX and design set of staff people on staff. We have at least one designer on every fellowship team. So yeah, all of that stuff is really important. You do not have to know how to code in order to do this work, and I would give almost the same presentation at an organizing conference as I did now. But since you guys are here, I presume, because you are programmers, we need you at the table as well.
Thank you.
Hi, inspiring talk, thank you.
Thanks.
Now for the other part of the Code for America name, the America part.
America.
I'm just curious if there's anything else worldwide in other nations?
Yes, as I mentioned, Code for All, which I founded, so I feel a close affinity to. We're in about 15 countries around the world. Canada doesn't have anything yet. We keep kind of hearing stuff from cities in Canada that want to join, and no one's really picked up the ball. So if there are any Canadians out in the audience that want to start something, we'd love to talk to you. But we're in Australia and Japan and South Korea, Pakistan, Mexico, really around the world, the Netherlands, Finland. But we're also really excited for people to start new programs where they live. It's got to come from the grassroots, though, so we are not going to send people from the US to other countries to do this work. It's really been demand-driven. So if there's anyone out there from non-America and you want to do this work, you can go to that c4a.me/PyCon and find a link to the Code for All website.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks, an inspiring talk. I just wondered if, since it's great to know that encouragement to engage is now acceptable in the Python community. And I just wondered, given the previous remarks about the need for government to get out of the way, surely technology enables an increasingly fractal boundary between the citizenry and the government. And isn't the answer really for us all to realize that we are actually the government ourselves, and these problems will only go away when everyone can accept that and everyone can take a full part?
Yes. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
Well, I'm obviously not going to disagree with that answer.
Yes. Preaching to the choir.
Hi there.
Hi.
So a couple years back, there was a great little game that came out online. It was called the gerrymandering game. And first of all, I wonder if you guys had any part in it. It was this great little thing where you had to resize and make these crazy boundaries in voting districts to kind of illustrate how gerrymandering in the States is really scary. And second of all, I wonder what you see as the interaction between gaming and government and education.
So we did not have a role to play in that game, but I know what you're talking about, and it was really fun and depressing. So we don't work on politics at all. We work specifically on the bureaucracy of government because we think that it's, while that is super important and we are in solidarity with the people who are doing that work, no one's really paying attention to the everyday function of government, the non-political part of government, and that's where we really think that if we can make a difference there, that maybe bubbles up. The second part, gaming. We don't have an intentional focus on gaming, but like I think we build in gamified elements to a lot of the tools that we build. So like Click That Hood is super addictive. The Adopta framework, you can like name your hydrant, and then if you don't clean it out, then someone can steal it from you. So we build in some game elements to a lot of the stuff that we build. So yeah, we think it's important, but we don't have a gaming expert on staff as we do like UX and design.
Fair enough. Thanks so much.
But if you're a gamer and you want to join your local brigade and start working on projects like that, it would be welcome.
Good to know.
Hey, I'm from Minneapolis, and we've been talking a lot about grassroots and kind of from the bottom up, which I entirely appreciate. Also, my mayor recently went out to Washington, D.C. and met with quite a few other mayors, and there seems to be a larger technological push from the federal level down to the regional and the city level. Could you talk any more about how Code for America might be interacting with that, or are you guys doing anything that's more regionally applicable? Or?
Yeah, we do. I mean, like I said, we don't work on federal projects, but we do have great relationships with the federal government. So our founder, Jen Palka, spent a year at the White House last year, and she actually set up she was there when Healthcaregov happened, which was sort of a blessing and awful as well. Kind of ruined her year and also made her year. But she set up, in response to that, the United States Digital Service, which is based on the UK's government digital service. So, and our safety and justice team was just at the White House this past week talking with police chiefs from across the country on police incident data and how to create more transparency around that. So we do kind of try to work with the federal government when they have a lever that can be pushed at the local level. But we really focus on the actual point of implementation and not the point of policy making.
Entirely. Thank you very much.
Yep. I think we have, is that it? Yep, okay.
Done. Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.